Welcome to another episode of Indigenous Insights, presented by National Indigenous Times. I'm your host, Des Headland, a proud Noongar Yamaji man and former AFL player. And I'm excited today with our guest, up-and-coming boxer and hopefully world champion soon, Noongar man, Alex Winwood. And Alex, tell us about your story. Where'd you grow up? What's your background? And, let us know a bit about you, mate. What's been happening?
Yeah, so I was born in Bunbury, and all my family's from down that way, West Australia. Spent the first 8 years of my life down there, and then moved up to Perth for a few years. Then ended up down in Mandurah, not far from Bunbury, and spent from 10 all the way to 20, pretty much growing up there, and found myself in sports when I first got to Mandurah. Didn't do sports beforehand. It was only like school, running around, whatever else, and then played footy down there. Played from 11 up to 16. Won one flag actually. I'm not gonna lie.
Mate, better than most.
Got best on ground too.
Yeah,
so
good,
that's
take that one.
Yeah, I still got the DVD actually at home, and I haven't watched it. It's been like 10 years, so I'm gonna have to watch that soon. But yeah, after about 16 years old, that's when I found myself into boxing, and my coach, he just retired, working at Alcoa, and he was an assistant down at the PCYC, and since he was fully retired now, he wanted to start his own gym. He already had a boxing ring in the back of his yard, so he's finding some athletes and whatever else, and just trying to kill time as you do. And he went and approached my high school and kind of started running some little boxing classes there, and I was one of them. And yeah, before I knew it, started to find myself going in that road.
Yeah, it's a good start. So 16 when you first got into the sport.
Yep.
And obviously a gifted athlete. You loved your footy, as you said, best on ground in the grand final. Okay, that's great. Any early memories when you first started out at 16, 17 in the boxing ring? Any funny stories or any good knockouts, or anyone told you up that made you want to work harder?
Yeah. I remember my first ever sparring session and driving to it, and it was like in Falcon. So where I lived, Falcon was about 25-30 minute drive out towards Bunbury from Mandurah, and I was just like shitting myself. I was thinking, why am I doing this? This is a stupid idea. I'm about to go, like, there's this guy, I don't know who he is, and he's had like 5 fights, and this is a bad idea. And like, my hands were cold, my feet were cold, my jaw was shaking. Got there, and the bloke, his name's Jackson England, and he's actually a really good professional at it now, and I've known him since the last 10 years. But at the time, you're going into the unknown, and it was just like scary as face that fear, and we became really good friends. But then pretty much my first fight, same situation happened. It's driving up all the way to Perth, and it's like an hour and a half drive to Scarborough. And all I wanted was for something to happen on our way there that I didn't have to tell anyone I don't want to fight. Yeah. I wanted the car to break down. I wanted to run out of petrol. I wanted something to happen. So because everyone's like, "How you feeling?" I'm going, "Yeah, I feel good." Yeah. I'm like, "Nah, come on, someone get me out of this." Yeah. So those are pretty much the 2 earliest memories, of how intense boxing used to be. Besides the fact that boxing always felt like preseason in footy.
That's right.
I only trained 2 days a week in boxing, and the other 3 was like footy. And I was like, oh no, this is like doing preseason these 2 days. I don't want to go to this session. I don't want to do this. Yeah.
And it's funny you say that. Like, over my footy career, not just me, but all other footy players, boxing's a big part in our training.
Yep.
And you're right. We have our teammates. If you mess up a kick or someone's beating you on the day, you got your teammates to back you up and come and help out. Where when you're in the ring, mate, it's just you against him. Yeah. And I can imagine how nerve wracking that would be. tell us a bit about your journey. So a pretty good amateur career, a successful amateur career, and then turn pro. Just tell us that journey, from amateur fighting, and then when you first walked into your professional debut, and the difference, if you found any difference as well.
Yeah, there is a big difference, and the way that I usually will explain the two, professional and amateurs, they're almost two different sports. One's like a sprint, and the other one's like a marathon. So with the amateurs, you're only limited to 3 rounds. So you're trying to win a short sprinting contest, and you only have to win 2 rounds, or 1 and more of 1 and 2 minutes really, and that's the whole fight done. Where pros, you got anywhere between 4 to 12 rounds, so you have to work out how to build that endurance and whatever else. There's a lot more tactic that comes involved throughout the game plan of the fight. Like in an amateur fight, you can only implement, maybe one change throughout the fight if it's not working in your favor for the last round. But it's kind of like a football game where you're having like quarters, like, oh, this hasn't really worked. Let's change something a little. Let's see what's happening. Let's see what he's going to do. So that's been a very funny insight that I've experienced over the last couple of years. But my amateur career was it was everything that I wanted it to be, essentially, without an Olympic gold medal. That's still spewing about that. But yeah, like I met so many people. I ended up having 60 odd fights, and got to travel interstate across the world. And as a young Noongar fellow to come from Mandurah, I only left the state one time on a school trip.
Yeah.
And that was a big, big deal. Like, because none of my other family members, they've went interstate, but they drove, but no one ever caught a plane somewhere else. And then before I knew it, it's like, all right, I'm going to go to a national championship in Queensland. And I was like, whoa, this is awesome. This was maybe a year and a half, or just under 2 years of me turning into boxing. And I already tried to make state for footy, and that's really hard. I didn't get to make it.
Yep.
So 2 years in, and I'm on a state team, and I get the black and gold as we all represent. And I was like, whoa, this is awesome. This is boss. So I went to national championship. I lost my first fight, that one. The turnaround was about a year or just under, and I turned senior. And so I was in an open class now. And I went back, and it was the end of 2015, I believe. And this was a pre-Olympic qualifying event. And there was maybe 5 or 6 people in my division. I think it was 5. I fought 2 Victorians, and I beat them both. One of them was a former Australian champion, or the current Australian champion. And then I went into the final, and I got to fight Reggie Palm Island from Queensland. He could punch. And I only had like maybe 16 fights or something, and I hadn't been fighting for very long, maybe, 3 years at this point. And now I'm fighting grown men and like fellas who's fought everywhere. And I didn't actually see it at the time, but I went on YouTube afterwards, and Reggie could actually punch. Like, he knocked people out cold. And everyone kept saying, oh, yeah, he's got a hard right hand. Well, I didn't let him throw that right hand that fight.
Yeah, good. Tactics, eh?
Yeah, exactly right. So
I bet you didn't watch the YouTube before the fight either.
Yeah, exactly right. And then I beat him that day, and then because it was like a pre-Olympic qualifying event, which I didn't know about, my coach just kept me in the dark. He's like, I don't want to put pressure on this kid.
Yeah,
we're just going there, and I thought it was just get a gold medal, and that's all we're doing. And so I got the gold medal, and they said, oh, you might be representing Australia to go to an Olympics. How do you feel? And I went, oh, yeah, I feel great. I only just found this out. I didn't tell anyone.
Well, and how did you find it? Do you think that was a good thing, or the coach didn't want to put the pressure on you?
Yeah, like he was very wise the way that he would do things like that. He'd just go like, especially at that time, like he put me in a couple of fights just to see how I was going to go, and he didn't want to throw you in the deep end at any time because he understands it's a pretty dangerous sport and he doesn't want
Absolutely.
anyone to get knocked back and whatever else. So, but yeah, like I passed the test as he put me into him. And then we went back. We had to fight Reggie 2 weeks later in Melbourne, so it was like a best 2 out of 3. So if I lost the next fight, then we'd fight the day after.
Straight away. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, we're going to have to come back. And I was like, I'll get to travel again. This is the 3rd time I'm going away with the team. And then, like fought him for the 2nd time. And then I beat him. And I was like, oh, thank gosh, we don't have to fight tomorrow. And then, pretty much after that, I got an email saying, all right, you've made the Australian team. You need to, we're going to go to the Philippines, going to go do some training camps, and then we're going to see if you can qualify for an Olympic Games. And got to do my first international experience and go around and end up having 2 fights. I beat New Zealand in my first international fight, and I was very proud of that. And then I got bashed up in my next fight against a former Olympian, and I went, whoa, these guys are serious.
It's a whole nother level.
This is like a different kettle of fish that I don't know about. And then that fight there was what sparked it in me. It was like I got very close to getting to a games, and I fought a former Olympian, and he went on to go to that Olympics. But I was like, I'm not good enough yet, but I want to be good enough. And I thought it was only going to be a 4-year turnaround to try again. Little did I know it was going to be 5 because of COVID. But that was kind of what really set me on the journey was losing that. Got 2 world championships between them times and didn't get to represent Australia at the next Commonwealth Games that was held in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
But I set a long sight for myself, and the Olympics was the goal. And once I got that ticket and I won that fight, which it came down to the last round too, for my qualifying belt, was just like probably the best I've felt in a win as an amateur so far. It was like, whoa, I've just done something that I planned to do 5 years ago, and I've been training for this sport for 7 years.
When you put a plan in place, and you finally reach that.
Exactly right. Yeah. And there was a lot of knockbacks between like then and actually getting there. Like I had 1 year that I had maybe 9 fights, and I lost, I think, about 7 of them. I remember a lot of, and I didn't think I lost. So that was the most annoying part.
How many boxers think they never lost? They
exactly.
Out,
Like. And I had a lot of family members going like they not believing it anymore. And I'm like, well, if they're like, he's not really, is he actually that good? And they started questioning it. I was like, I am that good. I know I am. Exactly. I feel like I'm not getting the good end of the stick. But I had to come over a lot of them little trials and tribulations, things like that, to get to an Olympic Games. And then I chose to stay amateur for a couple more years just to go to Commonwealth Games that I got to do. And then, finally never thought I was going to turn pro, but after that I went, I'm ready to do this and gonna see what that feels like for me. Because at the end of my amateur career, I was kind of over it and wasn't really enjoying the process anymore. There's a lot of travel, and as an amateur, you don't get paid. But you have to put just as much time into that.
Exactly.
That it takes away from, I was doing a trade at the time and that, and watching all my peers like get ahead in life. They're getting mortgages, they're doing this and that, and I was like, well, I can't really go get a house and whatever else. I'll have to stay at work longer. I'm gonna have to do longer shifts. So I had to be very, very conscious about what I was doing outside of boxing in terms of like not trying to have a kid too early, not getting a house, not getting a car loan, as everyone does as soon as because
certain age is ready to live life and what's the next steps. But as an amateur, as you're saying,
100%,
you're working just twice as hard as a pro. So.
Yeah, and I was working 40 hours a week and training 4 a.m. in the morning and 6 a.m. at night to get my 2 sessions in, and I still made an Olympic Games like that. None of my other peers that made that Olympics had a job. Perfect. But I worked 40 hours and I was like, I know I've got something in me.
The harder you work, the luckier you get.
Exactly right. Yeah.
all walks of life. So, but a good point you put up. Like when you talk to a lot of elite athletes, whether it's footy or basketball or boxing, and even in the business world as well, when there's always that one point, that setback where you said you got belted in that fight, and that was a turning point.
Yep.
You know, for me personally, I got dropped for the 2001 grand final against Brisbane versus Essendon.
Yep.
You know, that was a turning point in my AFL career. So I don't want to ever feel that feeling again, right? So that's a great point and a great story. So also on that as well, what any cultural traditions or anything you bring into the ring, whether you're building up to it or you just get out there in the zone. Because our mob always want to try and, you know,
yeah, true as.
he's one of us, especially, you know, especially the Southwest, the Noongar's big mob. So,
yes. Damien Super Hooper, when he went to the Olympics, he wore an Aboriginal flag shirt when he walked out. Yeah. He got a lot of backlash about that.
He did.
And yeah, he had to apologise, this and that there. But that was solid what he did. And before I made an Olympics, that's what I wanted to do. I was like, oh, I'll go do that. But when I made an Olympics, there has been a turning point where they got a lot of former Indigenous Olympians to start making a Indigenous advisory committee.
Yeah, that's right.
And so when we got to the games, our accommodation and that, it was like no other. Every other country was jealous of us. We had like Australia there. It had my friend's artwork, Paul Fleming. He's represent Australia at might have been London. If it's not, I beg your pardon. But yeah, he won one or two fights at that Olympics, but fell short by one to get a medal. But they had his blackfella artwork. They put it on our gear. Yeah, it was like, it made me feel so proud to be an Australian, to be an Indigenous Australian. And that it also, so then it kind of stopped me from going, oh, I need to make a political point or something like that. Yep. Going out there, I'm like, I see what you're doing and I think that's awesome. And I don't want to like try to throw any shade on you because I love what you're doing and let's just keep going forward because everyone else, we all trade shirts or something with other countries. And they all wanted the blackfella design. No one gave them out. No, we gave them the green and gold stuff. And it was like, oh, they're like, oh, what about that? I said, no, I only got one of them. I'm not giving that away.
This one for life, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but as an amateur, you can't get to choose like your walkout song or your color, like your gear or whatever. Like it's just blue and red. So there wasn't much I could do as an amateur. But now as a pro, I get to choose my kit, get to do whatever I want. It's like it's a very big difference. But now I got roof fur on the side. I got it on my boots. I got kangaroo skin. There's boss. So yeah, it's something that I get to like pretty much show my culture and express myself in terms of like what I'm wearing and what songs we're coming out to. And I got a brother boy back home and he plays the didges. I'm walking out, so like it all comes together on the night.
Well, on a smaller scale, I did that. We had a celebrity boxing match a few years ago. I was playing footy then at Freo, and it was with Danny Green. It was for telethon.
Yeah.
But Danny did 12 rounds, so he had myself, Dean Cox, Jeff Farmer, a few other boys, and he fought us 2 rounds each at a time. I had to go round one, so I got him fresh.
Yeah.
But I had to choose a walkout song. So I was like, what do I choose? You know, so I chose Rumpy Band, Black Fella, White Fella. You know? And none of the crowd got it. But anyway, that was my little boxing story. But those 2 rounds, mate, I was fit too back then. It was only October, just after the footy season.
Yep.
And it blew me up. Don't worry. So that was good fun. But yeah, but talking about that, like obviously, family and community plays a big part in all of us. So, what have you found, going into the man you are now and your boxing career? How much has, back home helped you, to where you are now, really? So
it's been, it's been awesome to go through my path and have fellas help me out on the way through. And that now I'm in a position where I found out that I'm a role model. I didn't go to become one, but at some point you you realize, oh, I've done something, and people are
Straight on,
like,
yeah.
oh, they come and ask you questions and that. And I went, wow. Now one of the fellas that I used to look up to in these
Yeah.
kids' eyes or these younger fellas' eyes, even older fellas too. Like they're, very proud of what I've went and done, and like off my own back and helping people, with people helping out and whatever else. So it really has been like shaping me as a man to fill these shoes. Yeah.
No, that's great. And yourself and your wife have moved over the other side of the country. It feels like other side of the world. I done it as a
Yep.
17-year-old from obviously from WA to Queensland, and how have you settled in over here? And obviously training, so it's, you got that focus, and sometimes it's good to
Yeah.
just have that focus and not have that family issues back home, but you can always
Yeah.
go home and see them. I'll be nice. So.
Yeah, exactly right. Like when you are around a lot of family out there, it's you got to deal with family issues and stuff like that. Especially the closer you are, the closer them issues are. But yeah, like I've always been pretty level headed to be able to compartmentalize personal stuff and always what I have to do that day in the gym, because it's not a sport that you can just have days off and take too many punches, because everyone's got a finite amount of punches that they can take, and that's different to everyone else, and that might be your last one that you ever take, and I'm very well aware of that. So I don't like getting hit like at all. But yeah, I remember the day, like for you would have been a lot different leaving at 17, because I know how hard it was for me, and I was 25 or 24. So I remember the day, like my mum picked me up and she was driving me to the airport, and I said see you to my dog, and I was in the car. I'm like, is this really the right decision? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? Like, I started crying, and she's like, oh, it's all right. And I was like, I feel like someone's dead or something, or like, like you're going across like somewhere else. And I was like, because if you're on the East Coast, maybe it's a little bit different, but going from the West Coast and then going all the way to the Gold Coast, which is now 2 flights. So
that's right.
Yeah, it was a big effort, and the first year was us finding our feet, and like I lived with my in-laws before that, so it was like trying to be an adult essentially, and going to find a house and whatever else. And I smashed my coach's car up. The first 3 days I met him trying to go get a house. It was and I actually called my wife after that, and I crashed his car and went, look, I think I'm coming home. I think this man's gonna send me home
after
that. But he was all good about it, and that's actually where I got my nickname A-Rock, because I smashed his car into A-Rock. So
a good story.
It is. It's funny. He made me up a shirt, and it's got the photo of the car stuck on the rock. It's so funny. But it's been a real big learning curve and journey for the both of us, and it's made us a lot closer, and you don't have the close mob around, or the other Noongars like had to integrate into our Indigenous community around us. So it's been good, and it's a beautiful part of the world to live.
Yeah, and home's always going to be there.
100%.
And that's what I got told earlier as well. It's always going to be there. Go off and do your thing. Go and flourish.
Yeah, you're going to find
what you learn. You bring it back home to the young kids. So,
everyone's going to still be same places. Oh yeah, I'll go over this fella's house, and him will be sitting on the couch.
Mob, Nah, that's good. And so what to this point right now, what can you say is your biggest highlight in your boxing career? I know you want many more in the future, but right now,
I think right now, not if I'm talking, just a highlight in general. It's not particularly fighting. It was the walkout for the Olympic Games, and I got to do a blackfella dance on the way out.
Good.
And they just caught it on the side of the camera, and it apparently blew up. And I was like, I remember the feeling after I got to do that because there was a camera there. There was all these cameras, but I don't know which camera I was using. I think they was using this one that was above us, and like it was watching us all walk out. And then afterwards, like I had goosebumps. I felt giddy. I was like, that was deadly. I can't believe I got to do this. Like, so that there's still been the highlight of like my sporting career thus far.
Oh, it's Olympics.
Yeah,
What else? It's the pinnacle.
exactly
You
right.
know, so how many Noongars have made the Olympics? If you're not the only one.
I thought I was the only one in the first
Yeah.
one. There's one other woman, Lydia Williams, I think her name is.
Williams,
She's the goalkeeper for the Socceroos.
of course.
Oh, the Matildas, sorry.
Matildas, yeah,
I
of course.
apologize. Yeah, because I was the one who told her. I said, you're the first Noongar? She goes, oh, really? I didn't know that. I said, yeah, because I thought I was, and then I found out you were.
I researched it. You beat me to it.
She got to me by 1 game first, but I'm the first male, so I'll take that.
So you take that. Yeah, that's good. That's deadly, man. As kids growing up, you always waited every 4 years for those Olympic Games to come on and talk to someone that's actually, done that and, witnessed it and done a dance and, a walkout. That'd be amazing. So very proud moment, I can imagine. And on that as well, so with a fight, right? What fight are you most proud of and why to date? It can be amateurs, it could be pro. But if you could pick a fight where that was probably your proudest moment.
Probably either my first national title as an amateur, or probably the one that made me get to an Olympic Games.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say my pro fights just yet because I have a goal.
Yeah.
And like I know that the wins this far is what's needed to be done. They're the little stepping stones, but it's these other, I guess, the amateurs I can't go do over. So it's like, all right, I can be proud of whatever happened over there because I know I'm not going to go back there.
Good.
Where I know that there's something still going forward. As soon as I win a world title, that will be the biggest one. Then after that, I have to become undisputed or two weight. Like, so
you got the goals.
Yeah, like that. There's current, and like I'm just tunnel vision, just knowing what people and what things I have to do to get to there. But I think as an elite sports person that when you do something, you don't really sit in the moment of it, which is kind of a shame because you go, what's next? And that's how my brain works. Yeah. It's like when I was an amateur, it's like, all right, made Olympics, what's next?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of sports people are like that.
Yeah.
Right. Always trying to find that next challenge straight away.
Yeah, exactly right. Because you want that high. You know, that's what it is. Like when I did make the Olympics, the feeling that I had was like no other. It's like a drug. It was like, whoa, this is awesome. Like, but it only lasts for so long. And then we're back to the gym and we got to train and all this and that there for another year or something just to feel that 15 minutes of like that real good feeling. Like, yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
If they can put that in a bottle.
That ain't never going to happen,
Exactly.
Because everyone can try and taste it then. So, but and you might have mentioned earlier, so one of your biggest, there's always challenges, right?
Yep.
In sport and life and everything. And you might have mentioned it already, but are there any other challenges that you faced early in your career that you think, and that's you sat back and go, well, some challenges are good, right? Because you can get yourself back and work on that and understand why that turning point, like you spoke about before, in that amateur fight where you got towed up, and that was sort of that turning point.
Yeah, I think just boxing in general, but like maybe things that were outside boxing was a fair bit that I had to go through, but I think just the passion of the sport and my relationship with my coach at the time, who's a father to me, is the reason why I just kept on going back, because the sport's never really showed me enough love. Like it's always made me go the hardest road. It always wants me to go 110%. I got to do more than the guy next to me to get the same result. Like, and if I want to get a better result than him, I got to do more than that.
And I bet you wouldn't want it any other way either.
Exactly right. Yeah. Like a lot of I find that sometimes people close to me and they got a bit of a like a victim's mentality in a way, and they're like, oh, maybe it's because you're black, maybe it's because they're racist or something. And I don't like to put a blanket statement over like that. I'm like, what if it's not? What if it's something that I could have influenced? And how can I change this outcome next time? And so I've always tried to challenge myself and never try to cop out of something that I think maybe I didn't go to a session that day. Maybe I didn't sleep enough that night. Maybe something there was something wrong with me. Maybe maybe I've annoyed someone that I probably shouldn't have said the wrong thing or something like that. So yeah, it definitely makes me look at every aspect in every area of my life, and yeah, I actually think it made me a better human being essentially, because I'm a lot more respectful than when I was younger. After getting punched in the head a few times.
Oh, mate, I can imagine trying to rock up and just focus is don't get punched today.
Yeah, exactly.
Hit and not be hit, eh?
Yeah,
I was saying. So
exactly.
Something like that anyway. I'm trying to talk your terminology now.
Yeah.
You just square me up, make sure I'm speaking the right thing. But we'll get you to talk through your typical training regime, and we always talk about mentally and physically, how fit you got to be. But champions, especially I was taught young, and when you see those, the Michael Vosses and the Chris Judds, in my sport, the footy, and it's what they do behind closed doors that separate them, the elite level.
Yeah.
And people see you get in the ring, and eye-catching boxer, flash. You're hard, you're strong, you're fast, but they don't see what you do behind closed doors. So just take us through that sort of weekly training, and your eating, your diet, and your life skills, and to be where you're at. Really, you're challenging for a world title. So
you're dead right when it comes to that. Like, they only see the end product, and boxing, it's a bit unforgiving when you have a bad day. Like, people will write you off if you have a bad day, where in any other sport you got next week or you got next season to prove yourself, and you get that bit of leeway. But boxing is unforgiving like that. When you have a bad day, that's as good as you are, and until the next one when you prove them wrong. But I think over the time I've been able to learn a lot as I'm coming up. We don't have, the expertise as AFL sports staff, things like that around us. Like, boxing is usually a very tight-knit circle, and it might be your coach and a couple other people in the gym. So you're kind of relying on a lot of their experiences and what their knowledge is, and that. And fortunately for me, I've been able to do a lot of traveling, got to train a lot of under different coaches, go to the AIS, things like that, and really get engrossed in the sport and a lot of the sciences and that there behind it. And a lot of boxers do like 3 sessions a day. They'll do, like, say, a running session, a strength session, and a boxing session. 3 is too many for me. I don't find there's enough recovery period for myself. And a lot of the times I used to work. So I'm really used to train in the morning, train in the afternoon. So I'll do a run or a conditioning workout and then boxing workout in the afternoon as an amateur. Now it's reversed. I prioritize boxing. So all my boxing sessions are in the morning, including sparring, and then my conditioning session will be in the afternoon, and that will be rotated with running or swimming and strength work. So, yeah.
And tell us about your the Jimmy Rat as well. Like, I noticed that obviously had a good lunch with you yesterday, and the Maloney brothers and Ange Hyder and the crew, and looks like you got a good, not tight, system in place. So, how many other boxers besides you 3 that are coming through the ranks that we can look out for?
Well? We've got a couple in the gym, and they've all got their world title level that they want to get to, and that's what I kind of champion in people. It's like, my ambitions are to go down as being one of the greatest. If your ambitions are to be an Australian champion or to have 10 wins or something like that, that's what I want to see you do. I have been keeping my eye on the amateur scene, is where you see a lot of the high quality, maybe next professionals are coming through. And there's a couple young boys there that are actually really good, and I've seen him spar some of the older pros and that there, and they give
right,
and they're only like 15, 16, and they're giving him a real hard time. I'm like, mate, these kids. And I remember when I was like the senior in the amateurs, that my coach always used to say, because I beat the older boys when I was only 19, and he said, there will be one kid that comes out that's an Alex Winwood. And he said, you don't want to get beat by him. And I always kept that on my mind. And so, like, as I'm seeing these young fellas come through, and I remember I've sparred a couple and that, and I was like, I can't let you beat me. We might be able to have a close spar or something, or maybe you can even beat me in a sparring session. But
I'll tell you his boss.
Yeah, actually, one kid, he tried to challenge me 3 times because he sparred me once and I didn't spar very good, and there was a big talking about it. And then sparred me again and I didn't spar well again. And then they're like, oh, we want to fight you. And we went, all right, we'll fight you on the next card. It was a fortnight away. And then I started laughing to my coach. I said, he really thinks that he's got my number because of them sparring sessions. And he's like, yeah. I said, he waits. This is a fight. This is not training anymore.
The mentality
this ain't practice, as Alan Iverson said.
Practice.
And I gave it to him 3 times. He challenged me 3 times. I beat him every single time. So, yeah, it's like what happens in sparring sometimes, it might just be a trainer, but there are a couple of good kids out there that are coming through.
And on that, like, what advice would you give these young up-and-coming kids, that just love the sport of boxing? Even our kids back home that are looking up, I want to be like my brother Alex Winwood, or I want to be able to get to reach those sort of levels,
Yeah, I just think as long as they can position themselves with a good mentor around them and enjoy the sport, because it is a hard sport, and if you don't love it, there's no point being in it. To do it, find the best environment that you can. And with social media these days now, if young fellas want to reach out and that, I always reply to them.
Yeah,
I might not be the fastest reply,
but you'll get there.
but I always get there because I love having a yarn. If someone asks me one question, I'll chew their ears off. Like, I'll go, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll just keep going like, oh, sorry, I'm just word vomiting here. But because I got a genuine passion for having yarns with young fellas and that there. It takes me back to my young school days where, you'd have like a former AFL player, or if you're in primary school, you have a high school kid come in and you're like, oh, look at this person. Like,
And saying like, you have it through. I remember when I was a kid growing up, the Nicky Winmars, the Chris Lewis, the Peter Materials, Wayne Carey's. I used to sit there and idolise them, and then all of a sudden I'm playing against them. Then those young kids that are coming through when you go back to school visits, or go back to community back home, or they're coming up for a yarn, and you just always got to remember where you come from, and because that next kid or that next person might be that next Alex Winwood or the next star that's coming through, right? So, what about quality? What are the 3 qualities that you sort of base your life on, or even in your boxing? When you go to train, what are 3 mantras or things that that you stick in your mind that you always focus on?
Honesty is a big thing for me. Respect and work ethic is pretty much the pillars that I stand my life on.
What legacy do you want to leave behind? Let's say 15 years from now. And it's always hard to predict that, right?
But, it really is. I just want to show people that there aren't any barriers to greatness, essentially. Right. Like, I know that environment plays a big role in things, but it can go 2 ways. Like, 2 people can see the same thing and have 2 different outcomes. And for a lot of me and my peers, that's essentially what we had. We all seen the same stuff, was around it, and I chose to do something else, and they went and done something else. But I definitely want to leave some footmarks there for fellas to walk along, and do it with grace, not be someone that I'm not. I'm a very, very shy, very, very quiet fella, and I hope respectable. So that's what I want to show people, is my true nature. But when I'm in the ring, you wouldn't believe it.
You just go for it. Well, we call it white line fever on the footy.
Exactly right. Yeah,
that's good. What about your upcoming opponents or titles? What titles are you looking for? What are you trying to What's the next phase? Who are they, and who do you want to get it off?
Yeah, so essentially we're fighting for the WBC title route, and there's a couple of people that we need to get through. My next fight has been sanctioned, which just ordered, so that just means that me and the Filipino Joey Kanoi will have to fight when we can get a date, and the winner out of us will then be a mandatory fight for the world champion, who is right now another Filipino. His name's Melvin Jerusalem. So those are the two people that I have in my near future. There are a fair few other blokes out there that I'd like to challenge, but I'm rated highest in the WBC compared to the other 4 belts. So that's kind of the pathway that we want to go. And once we get the world title, then we can start challenging all the other champions.
Yeah.
It's funny because a couple of years ago, this division wasn't that strong. And now all of a sudden everyone wanted to go to it.
Yeah.
And now it's probably one of the strongest lighter divisions out of the bottom ones. And yeah, it's very competitive, and I hope that we get some shine some light on these smaller divisions.
That'd be good. And to finish off, how can people stay updated on your career and also your upcoming fights? Got any socials they can look up, or what's the best way to keep an eye on Alex Winwood and his career?
Yeah, so with my tech savvy abilities, yeah,
you get back to them slowly though.
Yeah, exactly right. You can message me straight away, and then I'll reply to you a couple of months later. Blackfella time, you know. But yeah, I'm pretty active on Instagram and social media. Alex_Winwood. That's WINWOOD, not Winward.
Winward.
That's what every time I say it on the phone or say it, I remember back in the day going to the canteen where you used to write like your lunch order.
Yeah.
And I'd say Winwood and they'd go Winward. And I'm like, it's not Winward. Yeah.
Or not Winyarn.
Yeah, true as.
Classic. Well, brother, appreciate today in the chat, and I wish you all the best, and hopefully you're holding up that champion belt before you know it, and I'll be following your career, mate, with eager eyes, and be rooting for you from everywhere, brother. So
no, I really appreciate it, brother.
Good to see you.